Okay, hello everybody. We should be rocking and rolling here. Sunday, we have a Sunday stream. And on the weekends, I like to play slower time controls. So we'll see if we can find some people to play either what Lichess calls classical, like a 30-minute game, or we'll go with the rapid. So let's see what we can find. Let's see if we can find somebody that'll play 30 minutes. Okay, there we go. We just got to hope that they make a move. Awesome. Now my sound is not working for... I've had this problem before. Yeah, Chrome doesn't... Okay, well that'll be fine for this game, but I should look into that next game for sure. Okay, Queen C2. That's very unique. Can't say I've ever seen Queen C2 in this position. So we'll establish a pawn that influences the center. All about the center here. Got to be a little careful. The downside of playing knight f6 is that you block your bishop, but of course, in order to castle kingside, we got to move the knight. One way to do that would be e6 and knight e7. The thing is, if I go e6 right away, knight e4 looks a little annoying. Attacks the c5 pawn and also threatens to put the knight in onto d6. So I do need to be careful. But I think that the simplest way is just knight f6, and we can always move the knight later on in the middle game, for example. Okay, a3. Okay, my opponent is taking any knight b4 opportunities away. So because my opponent has not played bishop to g2, and therefore exercising some control over d5, I might want to play d5 myself. If your opponent allows you to put a pawn in the center, it's normally not a bad idea. The only thing I'm concerned about is the safety of the c5 pawn. So if I play d5 takes, well, first of all, if they go bishop to g2, and let's say I play e6 to reinforce, well, the knight could take, and then the queen can grab on c5. So queen c2 is a very clever idea by my opponent. Very clever. It kind of discourages any d5 ideas, right? Because I do have to be conscious of that pawn. So I think I'll castle and not make any rash decisions immediately. Oh, I just realized that my my video is covering some of the screens. So let me maybe move this over here. Then you guys are not going to see my rating. Okay. Maybe I just make myself a little smaller. Can I fit? There we go. Want it to be a little bigger than that, but might be the best that we can go with, given the layout. Okay, we'll go with that. All right, and as expected, my opponent does get the bishop involved. So maybe, I mean, I've got a couple of ideas. I can go for a d5 push, or I could just stay on the dark squares, play d6 just to reinforce this pawn. And then at some point, white is likely going to break with d4 themselves. So we'll give that a whirl. Okay, knight e2. Giving hints of preparing for d4 as the knight helps. Now, bishop f5 is kind of a tricky move. It does hit the queen, but it also kind of says to white, hey, are you going to play e4? It probes white into looking at those ideas. If they do play e4, well then I have better control over d4 because this pawn is no longer covering that square. The only thing that I'm wondering is if I go bishop f5, and let's say d3, queen d7. This is a common setup because I want to play bishop to h3 to get rid of this fianchetto bishop, but I think white could either go h3 or h4 there, and then the rook is keeping my bishop out of there. Then my bishop on f5 might be a little vulnerable, be running low of squares. What I could do instead of queen d7, though, is maybe play queen c8. So let's say my bishop's on f5, I play queen c8. That way my bishop has an escape square. Hello, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Okay, let's give that a try. It's a little, it's different. I'll give it that. Let's see if I can increase the font size. Hello, Durian Defense. How are you doing? Chess Warriors, hello. Welcome. Am I taking challenges in Rapid? I certainly could play you next game, yeah. What time control are you looking for? You're gonna have to be patient because this game is gonna take some time, but we can certainly play a 20-minute game. Okay, so I've enticed white to play e4. So that's a bit of an accomplishment. So obviously my bishop's attacked. Let's bring it back. So now d4, I don't want to say it's under my control, but I've got some potential to use it. I could hop the knight in there right away. Maybe it would be useful to do this kind of setup. I mean, it takes a long time, but I've seen that idea before, where you get both knights looking at that square. Again, the only problem with that maneuver is it's such a long maneuver. But that being said, the knight on c7 is not stupid anyway, because if I decide to go with the queenside pawn expansion, let's say rook b8, the knight does help out there, because it's looking at b5. The other benefit of moving the knight is now the bishop is no longer blocked. So let's give this a try. Okay, my opponent decides to castle. And we're going to continue with the natural knight c7. Okay, b3. Now, I could go in there with my original idea. I don't really see a bad reason for doing that. It is lengthy of a move, of a maneuver, but it's certainly consistent with my moves. All right. Hi, Patrick. The camera doesn't lag. Yeah, for some reason, whenever I stream on Lichess, everything seems to be very good. My videos, my streams, it doesn't seem to be any audio or video issues, but whenever I do the Title Tuesday, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't think the number of people that are playing on chess.com would affect stream quality, but I don't know. Maybe it does. Okay, I could hop my knight in there right away, but sometimes it's good to kind of threaten something and leave it in your opponent's mind rather than just go right ahead immediately. The thinking is, well, if I do this, if we go takes, takes, then maybe my opponent just goes knight e2 and we have a mass of exchanges. I mean, that might happen anyway whenever I do play d4, but or knight d4. But I'm looking at these three pieces in particular. I haven't really decided what to do with them. So this rook in particular could be attacked by that bishop if that diagonal were to open. So the question is, do I want to put it on b8 or c8? There's an argument for both. If I go rook b8, then I'm basically saying I want to try to get b5 in. I don't know how easy that's going to be to achieve, though. Although I suppose if after a6, if it gets my opponent to play a4, it does create a hole on b4. Okay, let's play rook b8. I don't think that's a bad move. Hello, Zor. Welcome. We've got a nice audience here today. I normally stream on Saturdays, but was unable to. I actually was playing some in-person Blitz. First time I've done that in quite a while. So I had my chess fix already for the day. Okay, so now my opponent could play f5, tempoing my knight. So I think I do now want to hop in. And I have to decide how I'm going to take. And this is why I was considering putting the rook on c8, because if I take now with the pawn, well, now the c file is half open. But I don't know. It does look like that would have been a possibility. But anyway, let's take with a knight. Having a knight in that square is pretty good. And I get it with tempo because I hit the queen. So it's in effect I get like an extra move. That's what we mean when we say with tempo. Basically without loss of time. So this is very closed Sicilian-esque. And what I mean by that is in the closed Sicilian, where white plays knight c3 on move 2, this is the typical plan for white. Do a kingside pawn storm. And so because of that, I'm going to play e6. Just to add some more support to f5, because now I can take with this pawn if they were to push. And see, that's the thing, right? It's good to know multiple pawn structures, even if you don't play the particular opening. Like the Roy Lopez, for example. I don't play the Roy Lopez, however, as white. However, there have been games that I've gotten into structures that arise out of the Roy Lopez. So, and I only know that because I've gone over some Grandmaster games, because Grandmasters love that opening. And so it has occurred in some of my games that I've had to deal with Lopez type structures. Okay, so the bishop is undefended here. This is interesting. I could play knight to f3 check, and it doesn't matter which way they take back. Then I could grab the bishop. I'm hitting the rook. If he doesn't want to lose this pawn, I mean, well, I don't think they'd go rook a2, but even if they go rook b1, I don't think I want to take that pawn with the bishop, because then my bishop is looking pretty sad out there. So I think I would just come right back. And then that bishop is quite the beast. I think I want to do that. I think that looks quite strong. Now, having said that, watch me get smashed. Yeah, so my opponent didn't think about that. This is an example where loose pieces come off. So my opponent's bishop on b2 was not protected. So that's why that tactic was available. Okay, so opponent is trying to open up things. Well, I want to keep that diagonal open for my bishop. And I think my opponent is going to lose this knight, folks. I'm going to hit it twice. So they have to defend. I'm hitting it twice. So they only have one defender. Only way to defend it is with one of the rooks. But the thing is, this is a nasty pin. So I'll be able to play e5 next move, attacking the knight with the pawn, and the knight can't move because of the pin. So my pawn is going to be able to take off that knight. Patrick says the opponent is playing way too fast. I agree. I agree. And probably now my opponent is coming to the realization that the knight is a goner. That's the consequence of my opponent losing his dark square bishop, because now he's weak on the dark squares. Okay, I thought that's what they were going to do. I suspect they're going to try to play f6 here. Is there any benefit to taking here? I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, it opens this up for that bishop, and also my king is a little more exposed. So I don't think I mind f6 being played, because I'll be able to play bishop to h6 and have that diagonal. Now, I don't have to take this immediately because we still have the pin. So I could also consider f6 myself. That might actually be the best solution, actually. It does mean that my dark square bishop is quite defensive. That's okay. I mean, I'll still be able to play bishop h6 even if I do play f6 myself. Just wondering, if I do play f6 and then take here, they're going to grab this as well. Is there any way for me to prevent that from happening? Maybe I just play rook e8 here, so that I have bishop to f8 if need be. Downside about rook e8 though is it takes away defense of f7. So I have to be careful if this were to open up. Hey, Premier Chess with the raid. Welcome. Welcome, Raiders. Hope you had a good stream. Okay, let's see if I can make use of some tactics here. If I take and they push f6, I do have bishop to g4, which would win an exchange. They would win my bishop, but then I would grab that. That might be a way to go. Okay, I don't think I should overcomplicate this. I think I'm just gonna take. Don't want to get too fancy. Yeah, that was the move I expected. So we're gonna hit the bishop here, and I think we'll be able to play bishop g4 next move. They'll be able to play rook takes here though. But then I can take. They take, I take, and then I'm just up a full rook there. So I think this is looking pretty bad. Oh, the thing is, they can't take here because of the pin. Okay. It's still pinned. So this is just going to win some more material. It's really strange playing a chess game without sound when you're used to playing with sound. So I'm going to have to fix that. Before the next game, because it's kind of driving me nuts. Okay, let's take. And, well, I could play d5 and then take here. But, I don't know. Then it would give them a real strong pass pawn. I don't think we should give any counterplay unless we have to. So let's just defend the pawn again. Okay, rook d5. Want to go to b5? I mean, all right. Let's play a6 to get rid of that idea. This is one way that you win one games, folks, is that you try to take away your opponent's counter chances. Especially if you're up material. You should be able to take away the majority of your opponent's counter chances if you're ahead material. Now I could play here. I think that makes sense. The queen is fortunately protecting the rook, otherwise my opponent would have been able to trade and then take with their queen. Okay, so they don't want to exchange, but now I think there's going to be a problem. How do you defend that pawn? If you do play e5, I'm not going to take with the pawn because then I would lose material. I would have played rook takes e5 there. So maybe that's the idea here. That I'm going to take and then they're going to play e5 with tempo because I can't take back. So this is where it's useful to perhaps just bring the bishop back to defend. So let's do that. Swiftu followed. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Well, I already have somebody else that's challenged me, but if you're patient, I can play you the game after that. Okay, I'm just realizing my opponent does have c5 as a possibility. So it doesn't look like I can stop that. But let's just take the pawn. Couldn't you have taken the pawn and brought rook back to e6? Yeah, I could have, but then they could take on d6, and then I'd have to deal with the passed pawn. And that might happen anyway, because like I said, they have c5, which I kind of forgot about. And again, I can't take back because I lose the rook. But the difference here, okay, they did play that move. I've got enough defenders now on this pawn. So I don't even have to keep my queen defending this right now. I could put my queen on a more active square. Queen a5, it does hit that, but I don't think that's anything to write home about. Queen a5, queen c7. Queen a5 is a little tricky because then they could take here and they're hitting my queen at the same time. All right, well, let's just go back. All right, Chess Warrior, we'll take a look at that position after the game. Maybe I did miss something there. It's quite possible. My opponent's doing a nice job. So this is not what you want to do. I've allowed my opponent to get some chances here. It's all because of this damn rook. It's not defended. Otherwise, I'd be able to take either of these pawns. So now I'm looking at possibly exchanging. But I think they could just take here. Well, if they do that, then I can take the pawn. Okay. So if they were to take with the king, trying to see if I could make use of this pin, but doesn't look like it. Yeah, so my opponent's done a real nice job here. So this whole maneuver, maybe it was just a bad idea because it left this rook undefended. Okay, so I think I'll sack my bishop for the 2 pawns. I'll still be up an exchange, but definitely my opponent is in the game. So I'm planning to take here. Did I consider rook f5 instead of rook e6? Yes, I did. I don't think it would have mattered because on rook f5, they could have taken here, and then my rook would be vulnerable. But I don't know, maybe that was the way to go. Okay, so I was planning on taking, but I just want to see if we can get away with not taking. The thing that worries me is that this bishop is going to get on this diagonal. And if I have to play f5, I'm really opening up my king. But if I keep my dark squared bishop, I might be able to get away with a move like f5. Okay, I think taking is the easiest way. I'm still going to be up material. I'm going to have one extra pawn and up the exchange. So that should be more than enough. That being said, this is definitely to my opponent's advantage because bishop versus rook, uh, they're getting closer to, well, they're getting more drawing opportunities, put it that way. Closing the gap in the material edge. So I lose a bishop, but I get 2 pawns for it, and I simplify. That's the other thing. I'm getting low on time. It's a good idea to simplify the position when you get lower on time. Let's see. Let's see if we can get them to take my free pawn. And then they lose their queen. I'm not expecting that to happen, but it's not a bad idea to have this battery. Okay, and naturally my opponent does see that move, as expected. So let's throw in a check, see where that king goes. Okay, king goes there. Okay, let's attack the bishop, see where that bishop goes. And we're also attacking the pawn. Now the thinking is if they take here, I can play queen d7, check, and also pick off the bishop. Okay, good move by my opponent. If I take, now they're gonna... Oh no, they don't have bishop d5 because I've got this. Okay. So I think I can just take that. Don't see any reason not to. Okay, now we're up 2 pawns, plus the exchange. Okay, now I just wonder if I can play here to add pressure to that bishop. So if I go there, I do have to be mindful of a check, but I think I can just play king h7 and there's no follow-ups. But maybe there they actually can play bishop takes. Ah, no, they couldn't, because I'll come back to d7. Okay. All right. Okay, bishop there. Let's play a check. We're also hitting the a pawn. We're also asking the king, where do you want to go, sir? If they go here, then maybe we can force them to the first rank. I mean, who knows? Maybe they could come up here. Yeah, understandable that they didn't do that. Generally don't want to move your king closer to your enemy's pieces. Okay, and I thought that was the move that needed to be played. So if I play queen c6 now, I'm adding 2 attackers to that bishop. So how do they defend? I mean, they have a check, but then I just go here. So I think after queen c6, or even queen d5 for that matter, they have to come back. And when they come back here, I think I can play queen h5, and oh no, that's not mate. Queen h5 is not mate. I mean, the simple thing is just a sack, and I'm up enough material. All right, let's check. The king has to go to g1. And now let's attack the g3 pawn. Okay, they're hitting my rook. So let's not lose the rook. Put a check. All right, let's put a check here. Yeah, that's probably sufficient. I could sack the rook. If I go to e2, then here. Okay, I've got an idea. Now, how are they defending that bishop this time? Don't think they can. The only check I have to worry about is here. Ah, then I come up here and they've got this one. Okay, so they are going to get a check. Okay. All right, let's just exchange the queens. It's the easiest way. I'm also running short of time. Welcome, Eve Singularity. And my opponent gives up the bishop for some reason. And we're good. Okay. Very nice. So let's take a look just quickly. I just want to see what Chess Warrior was saying earlier. So what was Chess Warrior saying earlier about take the pawn and then bring my rook back to e6? Well, I'm not sure when. Before bishop f8. Okay. So here, I guess. So here, here. Ah, yes, you're right. Yep, that would have made a lot of sense. Yep, that was a better way to do it. Yep. Okay, I'm going to suggest that we play 20. Oh yes, yeah, I think that's still the issue, eh? C5 maybe? No, I don't think so. I can take now, right? No, I can't. I can't because of this pin. Okay. Yeah, it looks like my opponent has some tricks there. Anyway, let me close Chrome here, and I'm going to open it up again. And hopefully the sounds are going to be available. Let me just see if the sounds are going to be available, folks. Why am I not hearing any freaking sounds? Just one sec, folks. Okay, maybe I have to close all my Chrome apps. Yeah, I want to play 20 with 5-second increment, but just let me restart the browser and I'll be right back here. Okay, now I got the chat back up. And if the sound don't work this time, I'm not going to worry about it. I mean, the important thing is you guys hear me. Okay, you have an ad right now. Okay, that's okay. Gives me a chance to try the sound now. Perfect. There we go. We do have the sound. You certainly can, my friend. Challenge me to 20 minutes, 5-second increment, please. Excellent. All right. Good game to you. D4. What do we want to play today? Let's work on our Queen's Gambit. Provided my opponent plays into the Queen's Gambit, of course. All right. So there is a chance we're going to get the Queen's Gambit. The only thing that would change this from being the Queen's Gambit would be if my opponent plays G3. And of course, that's exactly what my opponent plays. All right, so this is no longer Queen's Gambit territory. This is the Catalan Opening that was very effectively used by Vladimir Kramnik when he was world champion. Has a lot of potency to it. This bishop in particular can cause trouble with the development of black's queenside pieces. Okay. I like to play this accepted line. It gets into some really neat stuff. Normally white castles here. I don't think it's a big deal that they didn't. I'm just wondering if instead of immediately doing this, if there's any benefit to first playing a6. Might be a line, but okay. Now let's just do our normal thing. What moves as white do you recommend against the Nimzo? Well, I don't play the Nimzo I don't play the Nimzo as black, nor do I play it as white. Yeah, Nimzo has been popular for many, many years. A few decades now. The Zurich 53 tournament, 1953, the very famous candidates tournament. There were a lot of Queen's Indian defense that were played. That I remember. And I'm sure there were some Nimzos, but Queen's Indian defense was very popular at that time. Nowadays, it's not so popular. And the reason for that is the Nimzo does provide some more dynamic chances, more fights, more possibilities for decisive games. Queen's Indian defense is very solid. I mean, it's like the Queen's Gambit. It's a very solid opening. You're unlikely to get a lot of dynamic positions. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I'm just talking in generalities. Okay, so this is going to look like a weird move. Knight c6. Am I just not giving my opponent a pawn? And I'm not talking about the c-pawn. I mean, I've already taken a pawn with my c-pawn, so I'm expecting that one to be recaptured at some point. But the pawn I'm talking about is this b7 pawn. Let's say they play this way. That's just a free, healthy pawn. It is. But this is where there's some dynamic play involved. I'll get an open b file. And if I'm able to trade off that light squared bishop, I often can play c5 to get rid of that c-pawn, and it's not so bad that black has these two isolated pawns because of the open b file, because you have pressure against b2. So white has a choice there. They decided to go with, I think, is the more popular route. You can go this way. You could take first with the bishop and then take with the knight. We go queen e8, and then they grab the dark squared bishop. That's also sometimes played, but I could understand why that one's not as popular, because black is the only one with the light squared bishop in that case. So black will probably play bishop b7 at some point, and then black has all the pressure on that diagonal. So I think knight takes knight is the more natural way to do it. I've just recently started to play this takes line. I used to not play it, but I was watching some blitz chess. It might have been Magnus or some other grandmaster, but they played this line quite a bit in the blitz match that I was watching, and I liked the play that arose from it. So I've been dabbling with it myself. And that's the thing, folks. You want to get better, watch stronger players and try to do what they do. I mean, that's how we all do it. Unless you're Magnus Carlsen, and even he's agreed that he still learns new things about chess. But until you're at the top of the mountain, there's definitely opportunities to improve and to learn from others. I think the thing that also helps black in this line is that white still hasn't developed the dark squared bishop and the queen's rook. So it can, with this rook bearing down on the b pawn, it kind of ties white up a little bit because white doesn't want to just lose that pawn. Okay. Hope you're all doing well out there on this Sunday afternoon in Atlantic Canada. It is just about 2 o'clock here. Okay, a3 must be wanting to take away possibilities of bishop to b4. The downside of a3 is, though, it creates a hole on b3, so now I can plant a piece there. I don't think it's beneficial to do that right now, but something I might want to keep in mind in the future. Okay, so bishop to b7, trading off the light squared bishops. That's one way to do it. Are there any other ideas here for me? If I go bishop d7, then, I mean, it does give white the option of keeping that bishop. I could attack the bishop, but again, bishop just goes back, and I'm most likely going to have to play bishop to b7 at some point anyway. So I think bishop to b7 is the natural move. That being said, I'm sure after the game we'll look at it and the computer will say, no, that's not the best move. And if that's the case, we'll know that for next time. Okay, so these 3 pawns are pretty sad looking. And that's why I'm looking at playing c5 to get rid of one of my weaknesses. So if I can get rid of one of my weaknesses and get rid of a central pawn in white's camp, I'm doing well. Is there any reason why not to play c5? I don't see any reason why. Okay, so let's get rid of one of our weaknesses. So these 3 pawns are isolated, meaning that they cannot be defended by other pawns. For example, this f pawn is defending my e pawn. And that's what you want your pawns to do. That you want them to support each other, and they build kind of a wall. But when they're isolated, they can be easily picked off. So you look at that move, a nice developing move by white, and already white is attacking 2 of my weak pawns. In order to save those pawns, I have to use my pieces to defend them. And we really don't want to use pieces to defend pawns. With all due respect to pawns, our pieces would prefer to attack the king. Okay, well, I don't want to lose this guy, so if I take here, I'm just thinking that queen takes is an option, although, oh, I have rook b6 there. Aha! And so after the queen moves, then I would take on c3. Okay. So I think I will take here. Okay, and now I could take on d4. d4 certainly makes sense. Okay, they're likely going to play rook d1 at some point to get a tempo on my queen. And I think I want to hold on to this guy if I can, because this guy kind of prevents the b pawn from moving. I mean, the other thing I could do is just be patient and play queen b6, then rook d8. But if I do that, there's no guarantee that I'm going to win that pawn. And it is a central pawn. Central pawns generally favorable to grab. The only thing that's giving me hesitation if I take, let's say they just take here, this guy I'm going to have to keep an eye on. So I'm just trying to see if I could get away with this kind of move. Rook d8. Yeah, and the other problem with that is they could develop their bishop. Because if I ever were to try taking here, they've got rook to b1. And the knight helps protect the rook. So that's a bit of a problem. The other way would be to play queen to a8. And yeah, it looks kind of stupid to put the queen defending a pawn. But my idea is queen to a8. Let's say they take. And then I could play, let's say, rook d7. And then my queen's not so stupid looking because it's effectively controlling that nice diagonal. So those are the two options, I think. Queen takes or queen a8. Which one? Yeah, if I take on d4, then they take here, and this guy's a passed pawn already. Whereas if I go queen a8, they take here. They've got 2 against 1 here, but still there's some work to be done for white to create a passed pawn. It's possible that I'm not going to win the d pawn back, though, and so I would be down a pawn. Say rook d1, d7. Yeah, the minute I play rook d7, I'm keeping the pressure off of here. Let me just take a look at that. Okay, there. Yeah, I don't think I want to take any chances being down material, so maybe I could have played queen a8, but I think queen takes d4 is the most natural. So I'm making that decision more on practical matters. I've spent a long time on that move already. And sometimes you just got to go with what you've already analyzed up until that point. There's kind of a point of diminishing returns. You can think and think and think. It's not really helping you much. In fact, it's hurting you because you're losing time on the clock. Well, doubling up makes sense. But if I double up, rook d1, where do I put the queen? Queen g4, just keep it in contact with the pawn. Might be okay. Wonder if they could like sack on that line, play a move like, I don't know, f3, I take, then they're taking the pawn. I suppose I would have some play though with my knight, some counter chances. Just thinking in that situation, if they could win the c pawn, then they would have 2 pass pawns, and the pawns protect each other. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. I just realized now, if I go rook b8, I'm susceptible to bishop f4 ideas. Hitting my rook, and then I have to move that rook, and then the queen can take that guy. So I don't really care for that. Maybe the simplest thing is just to go rook back. What do we want to do? Don't think I can ignore this bishop f4 idea. I mean, I do have e5, but once they kick the queen is doing double duty of also holding the c pawn and the e pawn. Could be playing with fire there. Okay, let's just go back here. I'm going to pick up the pace. Typical me being in time trouble. Or not time trouble, but using too much time. So what I want to do is I want to be able to play rook f to c8 to hold on to this pawn, in addition to the queen. And with the light squares weak around white's king, I could have some counter-attacking opportunities like queen h5, knight g4, with some mating ideas. I guess the downside with playing a move like rook c8, though, is, I mean, this queen's a pain in the butt, to be honest with you, because if I were to ever take, then my rook on c8 is vulnerable. Okay, that's a good move by my opponent. Developing the bishop. Ah, so if I go queen there, maybe they can play f3 and then they can pick off this pawn? Is that the thinking? Well, if they do that, I could take on b2. So we would have queen h5. Yeah, I don't know if my kingside counterplay would be fast enough. But really, where else do I move the queen and also maintain connection with the c-pawn? I can't. I mean, I could consider a move like queen d6, takes, and then they take. And yeah, they've got an outside pass here, but I think that's pretty common in this line. I mean, the benefit of queen g4 is it does weaken g3. I just wonder if I could take advantage of that. Maybe go queen f5, takes. Then I could take. Okay, let's try it. We're just going to go with that intuitively. Because if they play f3, there's always opportunities to play h4, kind of try to munch on that g3 pawn. I mean, it's also possible I could play very crudely. Let's say, if they don't play f3, let's say they play rook d1, I could just play queen here with the idea that here I play knight g4, threatening to capture on h2. They could play h4, and maybe I could even sacrifice the bishop there. Might be a little too optimistic, but there's some ideas there. Okay. So now Chess Warrior is trying to come up with a plan, I'm sure. Okay, f3 it is. So I've got f5, h5, or h3. I'm kind of like an h3 because it doesn't impede an h5 push. And also, if I go to f5, I mean, maybe there's some susceptibility to g4, not right away, but the other thing I like about queen h3 is, let's say they take, I could take here, and then we're threatening some juicy stuff on towards the king. So let's put the queen there. And I mean, who knows? There's some opportunities maybe to sacrifice on g3 as well with the knight. And all of this is made possible is because we've traded away the light squared bishop. Okay, well, I don't think there's any reason to be fancy here, so let's just grab on b2. And of course, they have to deal with the threat that was on h2, and bishop f2 is a very logical move. Knight h5. How do they defend against... well, am I actually threatening anything there? Probably not. They just take back. Can I play bishop d6 now? Again, probably not threatening anything there. Maybe I just play h5 with the idea of h4. Try to open up some lines. Let's give it a try. I am aware that I'm not really using my king's rook yet, nor am I really using my bishop. So I'm going to have to get those guys in the game. One nice thing about h5, though, is it does create a safety square for my king, so I don't have to worry about any back rank stuff. Now, I do have to keep an eye on this guy. He's passed, so if I ignore him, he's going to go up the board. So one way to deal with your opponent's plans is to keep going with your own plans and force your opponent to pause their plans, because your threats are more expedient than theirs. Probably going to have to keep this rook on the back rank just to keep an eye on that pawn. Just trying to see how I can get my bishop into play. I mean, maybe if they do go here, I can play bishop to b4, trying to grab the knight. Because if that knight weren't there, then I'd have access to the d5 square, and also potentially e4 if this pawn were to move. Another idea that I could consider is g5, actually. Looks a little silly, but the thinking is if I play g4, I don't think that they could take because that allows my knight to come into g4. So after, say, g4, f4, yeah, my queen is kind of trapped there. That is one of the problems. But I don't know. Maybe that's too slow. But it'd be nice if I had this and had the time to play, say, king g7, rook h, and then h4. But that is a very slow plan. Probably going to need something more immediate, like playing h4 directly. I wonder if I could sack my rook for the knight. Because then my knight would have access to the d5 square, and it'd be nice to have this dark squared bishop. Of course, it'd be nice to sack it for that bishop because then my bishop is unopposed. Can't have everything, I guess. Okay, knight there. Interesting. Maybe the idea is to come to f4. Makes sense. Can I play bishop to d6? Just kind of keeping an eye out on that diagonal. Just wondering if it means my pieces are going to get picked off, and it would. So my rook and bishop would be in trouble there. Well, maybe I shouldn't fear this, because I do have the f5 square. Okay, let's put the rook on a8, because I am a little concerned about that passed pawn walking down the board. Actually, what I should have done there is park my knight on d5. That was stupid of me. So the knight from d5, of course, looks at that square. The knight on d5 would be a nice spot for the knight as well. Queen c6, maybe I can take. Looks risky, but the knight is also emprise there. Okay, let's go rook d8. Pick up the pace here. Just want to keep my rook defended and hopefully not as susceptible to being picked off. Okay, that makes sense. Let's move the queen. Really the only move. No reason to spend too much time on that move. Okay. Now the knight's a little vulnerable though. It gives me g5 with tempo. Maybe I can take advantage of that. Okay. Not so concerned about the check on c8 and my pieces. These three guys are really keeping an eye on each other. I could have played king f8 there, but especially with the dark squared bishop still on the board, I wouldn't feel comfortable moving my king closer, especially to my opponent's queen. I would have liked to have played bishop d6 there, but of course that would have dropped the rook. Okay, so my opponent is hitting the rook. So let's get a tempo on the queen, because of course my queen is protecting. Okay, let's grab some time. I think my opponent, hey Jerry, games are going well. Nice to see you, Jerry. So now I'm going to have both rooks on. Ooh, if I go there, they do have knight e3, hitting rook and queen. Got to be careful. Wonder if I can sack that. Takes, and then bishop here. Would simplify the position. 'Cause, 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 Ah, I can go here, because if here, then I take here. Ah, but then they just take back, of course. Yeah. Bishop c5 is also possible. Yeah, it's an annoying move, that knight e3 move. Okay, well, time is getting low. And when time gets low, you want to simplify the position. And by simplifying, I mean trade some pieces. So now on knight e3, I'm just going to take it, of course. If bishop takes, I'll take back with the queen. It'll be check. And my queen will still defend my rook. Now I'm threatening this guy. Once my opponent moves their queen. I probably had to take that with the bishop, because I wouldn't have had rook d3, because then I would have lost my rook there. So on quick glance, I think I'm, especially when I win the pawn on f3, I think I'm making some headway around the king. Of course, this bishop cannot move, because then it's checkmate on g2. So yes, I am worried about my queen lined up with the rook, but as it stands, that bishop cannot move at the moment. Okay, my opponent's doing a nice job, also with the idea of trading some pieces. Let's see if I can win material, though. If I take, they take. Ah, they take it this way. Okay, so that wouldn't work. It's a nice move by my opponent. Okay, let's do it this way. Self-pin. So we got some pins going on here, but I don't think white can take advantage of them. This bishop is stuck. Bishop moves, I play queen g2 because of the mate. That's how I can get away with that. I mean, okay, queen there. Now I was wondering if I can play knight e4, adding pressure. Knight e4, queen here, then king here, so that I'm not susceptible to checks. Let's give that a try. Okay, yeah, got to use your asset, so move that pawn down the board. Makes sense. But unfortunately, I think the king is a little too weak here. The king is just a little too weak, because I have this move. And yeah, after here, I take here. So very nice game, chess warriors. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it with the engine, just the eval. Yeah, let's take a look. But before we take a look, I'm going to be right back, folks, because I need to get some water, and I think I need to put a light on in this room. So be right back, folks. Yeah, okay, let's take a look here. So Chess Warrior says, I don't know where I messed up. Yeah, I'm curious too. I have a suspicion that it was not moving your pass pawn. Yeah, maybe a6 doesn't care for here, but okay. So this, I believe, is a line. Let's look at the book. Yeah, this is a line. So there is two ways to take this. You should have taken the knight with your bishop. So I explained that in during the game. You can do this. It is a line. Queen e8. Now, I didn't realize it was, maybe I'm confusing the lines ever so slightly. Let's see. Then queen a4. I see. I see. Like I said in the game, that I am fairly new to this opening, so let's see. Maybe my a6 was fatal? I don't know. I didn't think it would be. Okay, so it's knight c6 right away. So a6 caused some problems. Okay, so I should have played knight c6 right away. Let's see why that would have made a difference. Oh, well, of course, your knight is not in e5 yet. Yeah, okay, because white, I don't think castling. So after I take, yeah, a lot of people play knight e5 right away. So you did give me the option to play my knight c6 with your knight not being there. I didn't take advantage of it. And even here, a6, looks like a6 was a mistake. Oh, you got to go? Okay, well, yes, thank you for playing, and you can review the video on Twitch if you want to look at some of the analysis that we're going to do here. So thank you very much for the game. Okay, so it does look like my a6 caused problems, but why? Why did that cause... So this is very similar. The only difference between what we looked at before is that the king is not castled, and I haven't played a6 yet. So here, 7, 7. So yeah, they could play queen a4. I mean, they're likely going to win that pawn, especially with not being castled, though. I think even if black is down a pawn here, black will have compensation. Yeah, and even this is given, the engine is saying it's only 0.3. So, yes, especially after e5. Because then the queen has to go to h4, otherwise we go bishop h3 and the king can't castle. Okay, well, I don't want to go too deep. So let's get back to the game. In particular, yeah, so it looks like maybe just queen a4 right away. No, why is the engine... Okay, it's coming to its senses now. Okay. So a3. So this all looks fine. Looks like queen a4 was a miss. Okay, engine doesn't care for it, but I think that made a lot of sense. I mean, what else is white supposed to do here? Queen f3 is possible. Get a tempo on the rook. Yeah, the engine doesn't care for that. Probably because you're abandoning the protection of that. So maybe you just got to take. Yeah, that seems to make the most sense. And maybe now you use your queen f3 to hit the rook. Still going to have problems developing that bishop, though. Okay. Good thing that I muted so you guys didn't have to hear that. Okay, so let's go, let's see how the game went. Okay, so the engine likes black here. But I thought, okay, didn't quite care for my queen there. Maybe I should have just gone with queen f5. Because my queen h3 didn't really amount to much, and it's better to keep this more centralized. Imagine if my queen were on f5, when my rook was on c2, I wouldn't have had to spend a move to defend it. It would have already been defended. Okay, this all looked fine, and now, I mean, maybe white just has to push that passer. Yeah, but even here, I think allows white to trade down into an endgame. And that's probably draw-ish, pardon me. What else could black try here? Bishop d6. Bishop d6, perhaps. Engine don't care too much about that. What could we try? I was thinking in the game, maybe like bishop to b4. Ah, that would be bad because of knight d1. Hitting the rook. The bishop is in trouble. Can we play rook c2? Maybe rook c2, we just go queen d3, and we got to move the rook again, or even queen b3. Ah, okay, rook a2 is probably... Engine doesn't like any of my suggestions. Well, papa. Rook c1, perhaps? That's the way it likes to trade. Yeah. And after this, I mean, as black, I still got to be concerned about that pawn. But yeah, in the game, I think that was what white should have done after bishop after h5 would be to throw that guy down the board, because you got to give your opponent something to concern themselves with. So knight e2 was a nice idea, but it did give me a move where I'm not having to worry about this. So rook a8. Yeah, I didn't like coming there with the queen. In particular, you've got this pressure to deal with. So can you get away with, oh, you can't play rook a2. Okay, a4. a4. Oh, and then I've got maybe this idea. I wonder. It actually says that's equal. So how does white get out of this? Maybe just queen here? We're holding on to the pawn. That makes sense. So how does black maintain? Knight d5, perhaps? That was one thing that I was disappointed with, is that I didn't put my knight on d5. But yeah, I think this is giving white some more options, because I don't think that my attack is going to lead to mate, because if I do try h4 here, then I think white just goes g4, and my queen is really short of squares. Of course, they'd have to make sure f3 was protected, because after g4 I would be able to take here. But okay, anyway, let's get back in there. Let's play some more. Let's see if anybody is looking for... Okay, let's see if we can play a 15-15 maybe, or another 30. I like 15-15. Let's try 15-15. See if we get anybody. Might have to go to a slightly faster time control, like 10-5. I seem to get a lot of people in that time control, but then as I say that, we have an opponent right here, and the opponent doesn't want to play. Why did you accept my challenge? Okay, here's a 2100 that wants to play a 2015. So this is classical. And what do we want to try? Do we want to go Sicilian? Yeah, let's go Sicilian. It looks like we've got quite a few viewers on Lichess. According to the board, it says 16 viewers, so let's give them a good game. Okay, they're going to play the Smith-Morra pawn sack line. It's a gambit. Okay, are they going to play the Smith-Morra? So what's the idea? If I go d6, is that when they only play c3? Because against the Morra, I think I want to play e6 and combine it with a6. I saw a game that was annotated by Ben Feingold recently. It was actually Jeremy Silman. Yeah, it was one of the lecture that he did in honor of Mr. Silman. Okay, I don't normally play knight c6 this early, but if they do play c3, I want to keep the option to be able to play e6 and then get my bishop out. Make sure I'm not still muted here. Check my audio mixer. Are we still muted? No, it's working. Good. Good. Right. Okay. So here we go. We've got the Morra, and I'm gonna accept, and we're gonna see if we can try the ideas that I had seen in that lecture that I was talking about. Okay. Go e6, or do we go a6 first? Maybe a6 first. Because if I go e6, is there a concern of knight here? Trying to hop there, I suppose I could... No, I don't think that works. I hate to play a6 so early, but e6, knight b5, maybe I just go d6 there. Go bishop f4, then I could play e5. It'd be a different game, but I think that's playable. Okay, let's go e6. The thing about e6 is it allows my bishop to develop, whereas a6 is not really helping anything develop. It's purely to prevent knight b5 from taking place. And because white has gambited, the compensation for white is the lead in development. So black wants to develop quickly. Don't want to be messing around. Okay, so bishop e7 is a way to play. Is that too passive? I don't know. I don't think I want to play like bishop c5 or bishop b4. I certainly don't want to give white the two bishops if I can avoid doing that. So if I go bishop e7, what happens on e5? Maybe I just go d5 there. And we just play it like a French. So knight f6 is also a consideration. And if they go e5, we've got knight g4, bishop f4, Queen c7. It's going to get messy. Knight b5 hitting the queen. Queen b8. I don't see how white protects the pawn any further. But that being said, that could be very uncomfortable for black, because that bishop would be pinning my knight. Yeah, I don't think I want to go down that route. The only thing is if I go bishop e7, it's taking away the possibility of playing knight e7, which would be more apparent after e5. But we go d5, and then we've got like a closed center, akin to the French advance. So we should have time to maneuver and spend a move like h5 or knight h6, or even moving the bishop, and then we'll be able to move this knight. So I think we can do that as long as the center is closed. Rule of thumb, when the center is closed, you do have more time to make slower maneuvers. The reason for that is because your opponent has to bring their pieces towards the wings or blast open the center. And of course, blasting open the center is not so easy if you have a locked center. Okay. I mean, I could play d6 here now, actually. d6 and then a6. The only thing is, if I play d6, I got to be willing. Oh, that doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't threaten taking. So I could play a6 there. Okay. Yeah, let's just go d6. d6 is fine. Alrighty. I really should look at the book for this, because a lot of people do play the Morra. It's a very popular anti-Sicilian. Okay, queen b3, that's a good move. Wants to play rook to d1 and line things up with my queen. So I might have to play queen c7 at some point. I don't want to do it right now because it's potentially vulnerable to knight b5. Just wondering if I can get away with knight f6 here, because then I'd be one move away from castling. So knight f6, rook d1. Queen c7, knight b5, queen b8. How does white put more pressure? Well, if they play like bishop f4, I have e5. And if they were to play a move like queen a3 to add more pressure to the pawn, well, then I've got d5 where I'm hitting the queen, and I could take this next move. I mean, I could just spend a move to play a6 here. That's certainly possible. Then after rook d1, I can play queen c7. I don't have to worry about knight b5. But my king is still in the center, which I don't like when my opponent has gambited a pawn because of their lead in development. But I don't see how white could take advantage of that. I mean, knight d5 is sometimes a sacrifice that could be played, but I don't think it, excuse me, works in this instance, because I could just play knight d8 there, and I'm going to be able to castle quickly, so I guess the one thing I don't like about a6 is this really a threat? Do I really have to worry about that? I don't think so. Go here, and if they spend a move there, I can play knight f6, hitting the pawn, and if they go here, yeah, okay, you can win my light squared bishop, and I did say I didn't want to give up the two bishops, but if it means that I can effectively develop the rest of my pieces, I think I'd be willing to do that. Okay, let's go a6. I do remember in that game of Silman's that he had played a6 before castling, I believe. But yeah, I definitely want to check the theory on this. Another gambit that's quite popular, at least in Blitz, is the Black Maradimer, which is d4, d5, and white plays e4. I'll see that from time to time because I play the Scandinavian, and so it uses a slightly different move order. E4, d5 is the Scandinavian, and then people will play d5 to get the same position, just a different move order. Okay, so if I go knight f6 now, well then I'm just walking into e5 and I can't take because of this. So I think this is the time to play queen c7. And my opponent, probably bishop f4 makes sense because I don't think I want to play e5 here because that allows knight d5 with tempo. So after bishop f4, I'll play knight f6. And then once my knight is on f6, I'll consider e5 because then I have the option to take the knight. But even in that situation, white is going to have the c5 square, or the d5 square, which is common or typical of what you want to achieve as white in the Sicilian. So if I go knight f6 now, is e5 a threat? I think I just take. Not seeing any crazy tactics there. So let's see. I guess the difference here is that maybe queen a3 would be possible because, yeah, I could play d5 hitting the queen, but they take my queen as well. But I think doing this makes sense. Knight to f6. Now I wonder if they're considering something like no, that doesn't work. I thought maybe bishop takes here, but no, that doesn't work. Just a brain fart that I was having. How long have we been streaming here? Okay, we just crossed the 2-hour mark, which makes sense. I guess it's 3 o'clock here. I started around 1. And my opponent does go for queen a3. So they've got 3 attackers on the d6 square. And I don't believe I can put another piece to defend that. So I either have to give it up or play e5, blocking the bishop. Now if I go e5, probably the idea is bishop g5 with wanting to take the knight and then plunk their knight into d5. But I think what I want to do after bishop to g5 is to play bishop to e6. So that on takes, knight here. I have the option to take back with my bishop. But it's still going to be nice for white because they'll get a tempo, a couple of tempi on my pieces, but I think I'll be okay there. Now what happens if they play knight d5? So we take, then I would have the option to take the dark squared bishop, and I think that would be favorable for me because I'd have the d pawns and the c pawns, and I'd have the two bishops. So we're going to go with that. Oh, the other thing that I'm just realizing now, having a huge brain fart on, I could consider d5 because it attacks the queen. So what happens, let's say bishop here, d5. I suppose they could consider knight takes in this situation. But then I would take. Yeah, and then what are they doing? Bishop takes, and then I take back, and I should be up a piece there. Yeah, I'd have three minor pieces. So d5, I think, looks very strong here. So that's the only thing for white, putting that queen on a3. So what do I do once they, let's say, move the queen? I don't think I want to open things up. Do I just take here? Because I'll be susceptible to knight d5. So let's have a look. Here. Here. Ay. Suppose I could take here. Then I would take. Then they take. I think that'd be okay. Yeah, this is a backwards pawn, so it's going to be vulnerable to attack. Just want to see if d4 or e4, if they matter. I guess if I go here, I take, they take, I take back with the knight, take back with the bishop. Yeah, I don't like that. That opens things up for them. I don't think I want to get rid of that e-pawn because it opens up lines. So I think I want to go d5 here, followed by d4. So here, take, take. And I think I'm okay with that. Whereas d5, here, knight d5, takes, What I'm looking at is a move like either knight a5 hitting the queen, or simply knight d8. Because the thing with a pawn there is it locks things up. So that might be all right. Okay, I want to see what happens there. Let's try it. Generally, when you have a chance to play d5 as black in the Sicilian, you want to go for it. Because it opens up, well, it gets rid of your backward pawn on d6. And generally, it frees up your game. So as you can see here now, my dark squared bishop is pretty good on that diagonal, whereas before it was sitting behind the pawn. I don't think there's any real difference between queen b3. Oh, wow. Are they giving up the queen? Okay, they're going to go for the queen sack. Interesting. Honestly, didn't give that much consideration. So here, queen here. Is this actually a line? And they're going to come here. Aha. This actually might be a line. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that possibility. I never considered the queen sack. So here, queen here, take here, check. Then I could take in here, and then what's the story there? Basically, it'd be up a pawn, but I'd have to open G file. And if I take and they go here, let's say I go here, there's here. The problem is if I go rook g8, then they're going to go knight here and win the rook. So I almost have to give up that rook. So here, 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 here. What if I just take here, here, take, bishop e7, take. So they would have a rook and two pawns, and I would have a queen. Yeah. So I don't think they would have enough compensation there. But it's interesting. Let's go into it. It's interesting. Oh no, they grabbed the knight too. So it'd be a rook, knight, and two pawns. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting interesting middle game, that's for sure. Yeah, very interesting. The other thing is I'm still not fully developed, whereas white still has a slight lead in development. So that could be an issue too. That knight on d5 is very powerful. So I could play bishop to e6, the idea of just trading off that knight, but I don't know, I'm looking at ideas of here taking and then plunking my knight into d4. It's a possibility. The thing is, they don't have this option because I would take the bishop. It would mean that I'm giving up the two bishops. Whether or not that's a big factor, I don't know. What happens if I go bishop e6? Let's say we go here, here, bishop here. Am I happy about that? Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'm particularly happy about that. But this knight is going to be a thorn for sure. Okay, let's go with this one. So yeah, white definitely, I think, has a slight advantage here. I don't think that, despite having the queen, white has a better position. Okay, what's the idea there? If I take, they're just going to take on e5. But if I can trade off that knight, I'm quite happy to get that knight on d5 out of the way. So I suspect it's just to deflect so that they can play bishop takes here. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. So looks like my d5 was probably a mistake. Didn't give enough credit to sacrifice. Okay, I could trade because that knight is such a thorn. Knight c2, I don't think. Yeah, they've got knight c7 coming here, so I think I have to take that guy. I think we have to spend too much time on it. Now the question is, what are they going to take back? Are they going to go with the rook or with the pawn? I suppose you could make an argument for either. So I think what I want to do now that I've evicted that knight, I want to trade one of the bishops, because the two bishops are very powerful. If I go rook d8, I think they just go d6. Rook d8, d6, bishop takes here, takes, and then I can take here. I think I'm good there. What I want to do is I want to play bishop d6. Putting a piece in front of the pass pawn, but also trying to trade the dark squared bishop off. So if I take, the bishop takes, and they're going to hold on to this. Can I gain anything from taking there? I don't think so. Here, and there's nothing. I don't know if I want to give up my light squared bishop, do I? Maybe just bishop here and bishop g6. All right, hold on, folks. My feet are freezing, so I'm going to have to get my slippers. Be right back. All right. Yes. Now they can push. So I think I have to go back. Because now I don't have this idea of bishop takes followed by queen takes. I go back, they're going to go here, maybe here. Rook c1, and they're going to have threats here. Ooh, this is going to get pretty rough. In fact, that just looks like it wins. Yeah, it looks like I might have overlooked something there. Maybe I have to play f6. And what, bishop here? Yeah, it looks like I have to try f6, I believe. Just don't tell Ben Feingold. So if they take, I'm going to take with check, and then I'll take the bishop next move. And then, of course, take the pawn. Okay, so now that they went there, I can come back to f8. Still, I'm definitely in defensive mode here. Opponent has a very powerful initiative. Maybe I can play like king d7 and use the king as the blocker of that pawn, because I do have a6, which prevents any bishop checks from there. Okay, so I suspect maybe their idea is they want to go here with the bishop. So what if I go king here? So they go rook here, then I can play rook e8. That might be my only try, though. If I go queen c5, there's a check, followed by check. That looks pretty nasty. I Okay, well, I think it's the only try. My opponent, yeah, doing quite well here. So rook, knight, and a pawn for the queen. Queen is also looking at that, so maybe they're just going to move the pawn so that the bishop can help support. But then I have queen c5, hitting the bishop, pinning the knight. Might be wiggling out of this, I don't know. I mean, I am threatening just to take here as well. Okay. Let's play here, attack that bishop. Now I'm finally starting to get some activity for my pieces. How do I get my rook involved? Play this one? And they might have this move. They take here. I really don't want to play this move because it opens that up, creates more weaknesses, but I gotta find a move here. Maybe bishop g7 and just try to get my bishop going. I think I'm going to have trouble though, because it's going to be hard to stop them from infiltrating with the rook. Okay, well, I think I can first play this move, hitting the rook. I think that encourages f4, loosening up the bishop a little bit. And I've got a check, but I don't think it really does much. But after here, maybe I can play rook e3. Oh, I did not consider that move. What's the idea here? Are they crashing in? What's going on here? I mean, check, but I'm coming here, right? What's the follow-up? I mean, the knight could come here, but again, what's the follow-up? Hey, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. We're in tough here. 15-minute game. So we got 15 seconds increment. Okay, so, the bishop is supporting that. I missed that. So now they're going to, okay. I missed that in my calculations. So I think I might be lost here. Unless I can pull a rabbit out of my hat. Let's see. If I were to go here, check here, boom. Yeah, now they're winning the rook. Very nice by my opponent. But that being said, they did give up the bishop in order to get this position, so I don't know. Hey, awesome dude. Thank you. Welcome to the stream. Yes, my opponent is playing very well. Very, very well. Okay. Well, oh, wait a minute now. I gotta make sure it's protected. So if I go here, check here, bishop d6. No, then I take with the king. Okay. So I gotta do it this way, I believe. That's just gonna be lost as well. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Wants to just play knight here. My elo when I played was 22 and change. Yeah, knight here is a... So well done to my opponent. Very well done. So let's go back to the critical move, which was d5. Let's see what the evaluation is. It actually says that's equal. Okay, so let's see. Looks like d5. Okay, so this is a very interesting. So engine evaluation says that this is equal. Okay, so that was not the best. Oh, you're a strong player, 2300. Oh, but even now it says 0.6, but still not the best. It says it's equal here. The other move that I was considering was just the development of my bishop. Let's see. Oh, what if I took the pawn, actually? Is that any benefit, or is that just stupid? Okay, I actually never considered that. That's probably why the engine is saying, because the bishop is holding on to this pawn. So if they were to play rook b1, queen takes. Now they're threatening this check. It doesn't like that. Maybe I just go rook b8. Yeah, rook b8. Okay, maybe the engine says this is 0-0, but definitely a lot easier for, or a lot more enjoyable for white to play. Okay, so bishop e7 was not best, but it's still not losing, according to the engine. Yeah, it's still fairly fairly level. Do I play games with viewers? Yeah, I sometimes do. I played my previous game against viewer. Okay, yeah, everything's fine here. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. So it looks like here, maybe the key was that I had to keep the bishop on this diagonal. In fact, what happens if I played bishop to d7? It looked kind of stupid. No, that doesn't seem right. What about bishop f5? I suppose it's susceptible to like knight d4 or even g4. No? Okay. What's wrong with bishop f5? Rook c1? What about d6 like they played in the game? Yeah, this is kind of what happened in the game. So maybe in response to h3, I take the knight. Yeah, that's what the engine wants to do. And now that I see it, this definitely was the way to go, because now I have time to play bishop to d6. And yeah, white has the two bishops. But, I mean, it's still a game. There's still some work to be done. Engine's is showing that there's a better idea here. f6 first. What's the move that I'm missing? Oh, I suppose I'm in no rush to... Okay, because if d6, the queen could grab the bishop. So I guess I don't have to address that just yet. But if I don't, I mean, what other moves do I have? Is rook c8 an idea? No, of course not, because here and then check. You thought he was going to go knight c5 before d7? Yeah, that was a possibility. Also, a takes b5 instead of queen takes b5. Again, knight c. Yeah, yeah, the knight was definitely a strong move. Okay, so what move am I missing here? Let's turn on our silicon friend. Bishop to f8. So that is not intuitive to me at all. I would think that you'd want to try to trade off one of the two bishops. So why is bishop f8 so... Okay, and now the engine changes this evaluation again. This is one thing that I don't like about analyzing with an engine. Sometimes the evaluation goes bonkers. It's not always accurate. Okay, but this is definitely the way that I should have gone. Definitely white is better, but definitely I still have some moves. There's still some work to be done. Okay, Instead of d5 then, I'm curious what the engine was going to play. Yeah, engine doesn't want to play d5. Is every move generally best move or good move? Yeah, he played well. Yeah, I mean, I had analyzed takes. Or no, I didn't analyze castling. I was going to play... okay, I was concerned about this because doesn't that just allow knight d5? And, I mean, white's just crashing through, getting back the pawn. I suppose that's why it's equal, because white gets the pawn back. That's not what I was planning to do, though. I was planning to play bishop to e6. I guess the engine didn't like that. Why? Here, and I was going to take... Oh, I guess... I can't take back this way because the pawn is loose. Okay, so we take here. Knight d5. And my thinking was to take on d5, but I guess that's not good. I was thinking about knight to d8, although knight d8 is kind of dumb. Maybe knight a7 is the only way to go. Okay, I had overlooked that I couldn't take back this way, or this way, pardon me. I was planning to take back this way, but maybe that's okay. Knight b5 is the problem. Okay. Yeah, once the knight comes in here, it's bad news. That's interesting. So, like, generally you don't want to allow white to get this knight d5 in, but without having the chance to capture it right away. Alrighty. Well played to my opponent. Well played. So let's get back in there. We've got a 15-5 that we just missed out on. Let's see if we can get another 15-15 game. So this one's probably going to be my last one for the stream. Also, be sure to check out my YouTube channel and the Discord channel. I've got some resources on YouTube, often just recaps of my streams, or shorts of my streams, and then the actual stream itself. So if you haven't seen the start of the stream, you'll be able to go onto YouTube and see the whole thing. Okay, so we're going to go with Open Sicilian Dragon. Now I've been playing this cheeky little move in Blitz, just to throw people off, and also to play something that isn't 40 moves of theory. Okay, so now knight g4 is a threat, so I have to address that. Could play h3. Probably going to have to play h3. Okay, so the bishop, it looks a little silly on b5, but it often gets traded for that knight anyway. And I could also retreat it to e2. I've played those types of positions. But right now, I'm wondering. I mean, Queen D2 seems logical. F4. I don't like playing F4 when the bishop's not developed or protected, because I'm always just concerned about Queen B6 ideas. But maybe in this instance it's okay, because I'd have Knight F5, and the knight protects the bishop. Anyway, I don't think the queen. I mean, does the queen have a better square than D2? I think we want to maintain some protection on that knight. So let's go Queen D2. And I suspect my opponent is going to play A6 at some point. And then I'll have to decide whether I take the knight or I retreat with the bishop. Okay, so now if I take that with the bishop, probably the thinking is that here, here, and then they get E4. So I could take here, so that after takes, the queen is protecting. And I don't think is there really that much concern about, I mean, I suppose they have knight D7 there, but I could just play queen B4. But maybe I just simply go bishop takes here. But then that gives them the opportunity to mess up my pawn structure. So, okay, I'm going to have to go in for this. It's not really what I wanted, but yeah, so maybe after queen D2, that was important for me to do something with my bishop. Okay, I think I'm getting schooled here. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so queen T2 obviously was not correct. So this is going to be fugly. This is going to be really fugly. The problem is, if I take here, and they take here, I have to take this guy. Well, at the very least, yeah, I'm gonna drop the B2 pawn. Okay. Don't play chess when you're hungry, folks. I mean, I don't see a reason why not to take the pawn, man. I mean, maybe I have some compensation with the open B file, but I doubt it. Oh, well, who knows? Maybe after takes, rook here, bishop goes back. Who knows? Maybe I can take on A7. I mean, it looks a little silly, but it means I do get my material back. And that may be why they played A6. Okay, so knight here. Queen B6. Rook D1. Queen takes. Rook B1. That's probably not best. So let's go knight C3. Okay, so they want to mess up the pawns. If I go knight d5, are they just going to e6? Knight b6, rook c6. Knight here, b5. Yeah, that looks pretty bad. So, looks like I'm going to have to allow the trade, or yeah, they're going to be able to maybe grab the c2 pawn if I move the knight. Dinger. Okay. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be worse here. Maybe I can play a4, anticipating the capture. And I can play rook b1 and try to get some pressure on this guy. And when I have a4, they can't play b5 so easily. Of course, they don't have to take this right away. Okay, well, I don't think a4 is that much of a weakness, but what happens on queen here? Is that a problem? I suppose knight d5 is kind of annoying because I'm threatening to take here. b4 is in the offing. Okay, let's try a4. Okay, makes sense. Mess up the pawns. Well, I'm definitely worse. I don't think it's definitely not losing. Um, but definitely you'd prefer to be black in this position, and that's purely because of these two pawns. White has the worst pawn structure, but is it going to be enough for a win? I'm hoping I have enough counterplay to counteract their counterplay. Okay, nice move. Nice move. Okay, I really don't want to play this move because then my rooks are just dumb. I could go here, but then they take with the queen. I grab this, but then they grab e4. So rook c4 is a very clever move. Maybe I gotta go like rook d1 and rook d4. But if I go rook d1, then they're just taking here, I guess. So I probably have to play rook b1 here to at least tack this. Then they probably could play b5 because I couldn't take it because my rook here is undefended. So how do I deal with b5? Well, maybe I could try to mess up the pawn structure a little bit. Either way, well, I'm most likely going to lose c3. Okay, let's say I do something that looks really stupid, just to hold on to that pawn. And then rook fc8's coming. And then let's say I play queen a7, attacking the b7 pawn. Let's say they go queen c7 there. Well, then I can increase the pressure on b7, so... Okay, it looks dumb, but what the hey. Let's see if we can generate some counter chances. Now, of course, here, yes, they could take on e4, but then I'm taking here on b7. So that's my hope. Can I throw in e5 first? No, because the queen is also on there. Okay, so I think we're just going to go with the original idea, queen a7. Try to win one of those pawns. $3,000 Elo, Alex Elo, 3,000 Elo, thank you. Welcome to the stream. You must be able to beat Magnus Carlsen with that Elo. So what is my opponent going to do? First serious think of the game for my opponent. And it looks like they only play classical. Well, in fact, this looks like maybe they have a newish account. Okay, brought the rook back all the way. Okay, interesting. So the idea is just to play b6 and my queen is trapped. So what if I just go rook to b3 and attack that? So rook to b3, maybe it's b5. Then I could go queen d4, rook c4, queen d5. I could be pesky. All right, let's see what comes of this. Yep, yes indeed. I wonder if I have this incredible move, rook takes b5. The idea is that if they take with the pawn, well then I grab the queen. So rook takes, and if the queen takes, maybe I can take this rook. And then they take me, and I take the queen. I think that, but there's a flaw there. After rook takes, I think the idea is to play queen takes here, and then my other rook. So actually, all my major pieces would be attacked. Queen and both rooks. So that almost works out. In fact, had I left the rook here and brought this rook to b1, that tactic would have worked. So missed that chance, but that's okay. It happens. Yeah, that's too bad that I couldn't play that tactic. So it looks like I just rook c4, queen d5, and they could just take here. Well, we're going to try to keep posing our opponent some problems, but made a opening inaccuracy and got these isolated pawns, which not a good thing. They can be picked off. Yeah, I want to look at that position after just to see if I had moved this rook to the b file rather than this guy, if that tactic would have worked out. Because that would have been a wild tactic. All right, so rook here, takes, and they have to take with the queen because the pin. So do I have anything with e5 there? Just trying to break things up. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, so they're going to take that way. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Certainly is logical. Any benefit to playing rook a3? Yeah, it looks a little clumsy, doesn't it? Let's see, takes. And then rook here. And they can't take because of their weak back rank. It's probably the best I got. And if they take with the queen, then I'll have to take my chances in the rook endgame. Probably rook c5. If they take this, that should be a draw. 5 against 4. I mean, 5 against 4 on the same side, I don't know, maybe there's some better chances there, but typically in a rook endgame, with the pawns being on all the same side of the board, it's a draw. Um, All right, let's get the king out. Oh, that's a stupid idea. That's a blunder too. Here, here, and then they take here. And that's 5 against 3. Ah, stupid me. Yeah, belly's growling. All right, so I get away with one. So I expect they're gonna, yeah, bring the king over. I'm hoping to be able to just park my rook there. We'll see if they're able to make progress, but all right, let's protect this pawn, finally. So then I can move my king and not have to worry about those silly tactics. All right. If it goes e5, there might be an opportunity for me to bring the king in. In fact, I don't know if white would or black would want to do that, so maybe play h6 first. Then they could play e5. That way I don't have this square. That makes sense. There you go, as advertised. All right, well, let's bring the king over here. The king can help out. I go check, I think I'll just come back here. I have to be careful. If I go to d4, e5 is almost checkmate. In this instance, I'd be able to take the rook. But here, b4. Okay, I take, and then they take here. And they're going to win one of these two guys. So that's why if they go here, I'll just come back. And they really can't go anywhere except for here on that rank. But I think the way to go for a win here for black, because they have 5 against 4 on this side of the board, is try pushing those pawns, but then try to keep this guy on the board, because white always has to be aware of that. If this pawn could be used to distract either the king or the rook, then maybe black can press through on the king side somehow, but I don't know, there's a reason why a lot of rook end games are notoriously known to be drawn. So my strategy is I want to trade as many pawns as possible, because that's going to make going to increase my drawing chances. So I play this to prevent b4, but also to take away this square from, say, the rook. Also will free up my rook. Now that this pawn is keeping an eye on its opposing pawn, I can now consider activating my rook a little bit. I suspect if I go here, they'll go here. So I might have to activate my rook somehow else. Or maybe this is one of those positions where I just need to sit. I'm down a pawn. I really don't want to get down a second pawn. I already got off the hook once in this game for blundering that second pawn. Okay, interesting. So I missed that idea. So if I take, they're not going to take that with the king. They're going to go over here, I suspect. So I might have to play this move, or, well, no, I don't want to trade rooks, because king pawn endgame is definitely lost. I'm down a pawn, so f3 takes. I'm not happy that I have created a isolated pawn, but oh, but f3, maybe they don't take. Maybe the idea is to play d4, and then takes here, king here, maybe king there. Anyway, the point being is maybe that, well, that would create a pass pawn with this guy. Can they break free? Yeah, I'm not liking the look of that. Thinking they might be able to break free there. So let's consider this. Maybe I can create a isolated pawn for them, although I think in this case it probably helps them. So let's see, here, rook here, hitting this. So king d6. And maybe I come back and hit this guy. That's probably the best way, the best try. But good move by my opponent. Opponent is playing well. Yeah, I think it's crucial for me to keep this pawn to be able to trade it for this guy. So that's why I took this. Probably was a little too casual with the way I have my pawns structured. When I played h4, I should have played g3 to hold on to it. And I should have played rook b2 earlier just to hold on to my c2 pawn. Then I wouldn't have had to worry about these types of ideas of my opponent. Because just imagine if this pawn were here, then the rook wouldn't have been able to grab on h4. But that being said, I think I'm going to be okay unless I'm missing something. But I'm thinking that in order to defend that, the king would have to come back to c5. And so a repetition of moves would be a draw. Let's see what they come up with. Okay. So if I take, and then I take, it's true that I win a pawn, but then they're going to have 2 against 1 on this side of the board. And I still have to worry about this guy. So can I do that? Otherwise I'll have to play a move like f3 to hold on, but here, let's say h5. Maybe I can go over here and try to win this guy. It's my best hope. So maybe it's best for them to go here because they're going to win one of these guys anyway. Interesting rook endgame. Okay, so is there any benefit? No, I can't allow 3 against 0, so I think I have to take this guy. Now I'm wondering if I could, let's say I'm I am able to win that, then he's going to be able to grab my f pawn. There'll be 2 passers against 1. I don't like the idea of my opponent having connected passers. Maybe f4 is good here. Try to trade off the f pawn. I guess if I go f5, they're probably going to go here, but maybe that gives me enough counterplay against their pawns. The other thing about f4 is it takes away that square from my opponent. And also it's no longer attacked by the rook, so I could conceivably come over here to pester that pawn. Now if they go king e6, and if I go over here, I'm thinking that's to their benefit, because then they grab this, the king is active, and they've got protected passers on the outside. And it's true I would have a passer, but I'd be more concerned about theirs because there's 2 of them. So on king e6, I think what I want to do maybe I'm not gonna. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. Maybe rook h7, h5. Might be stretched a little thin here. So if I come here, what if I play king e3? If they go here and I go here, then they could take here. Then I take and then they take here, and it's 2 against 0. That's losing. If I go here, they're going to harass me this way, but maybe that's okay to bring the king. Yeah, bring the king closer to the edge of the board, I think makes sense. Maybe that does allow me the opportunity to come and grab this guy. Because now my opponent doesn't have king f5. Very important distinction. Because if they're going to chase my rook, the king's got to come to f7, and therefore when I do play this move, it's going to take them 2 moves to come up here to attack that guy. Very important difference. The question is, do I go over and attack the b pawn? Do I first come over here and try to get the h pawn rolling? I don't think I should be helping my opponent gain time with pushing those 2 pawns, so really I think the only idea I have is to play there and try to scoop this guy up. And then try to push this guy and give my opponent something to worry about, and at the same time bringing my king over. Very interesting. Next time I'll have to make sure I eat enough before the stream. Feeling malnourished. today's word of the day, folks. Malnourished. Just 1 second here, folks. All right. Unfortunately, my opponent is running low of time. Unfortunately for them, that is. But there is 15-second increment, so even if both of us get down below a minute, with 15-second increment, that's quite a bit of time added every move. Okay, h5. Yep, that makes sense. Because they want me to go over here, because then they'll be able to play king f5. Hello, Alex. Unfortunately, this is going to be my last game of the day, but certainly in a future stream, we can play. Also, if you're on chess.com, my username there is NotFischer. You can challenge me to a correspondence game. That's what I like to play, if that interests you. Okay, this is an interesting consideration. I could sack that pawn to break up the 2 pawns. But I have no guarantee that I'm going to win one of those pawns, am I? Well, I guess I would, because if the rook comes over here to defend, I can always come over here to pester this guy. So here, 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 let's say they just get on with, probably king here makes sense. Take king here. And I suspect that's because of the active king. I'm probably not doing well there. I know if I go here, yeah, this is definitely not what I want, because then they have 2 connected passers. If I bring my king over, rook here, come over here, I don't know. What if they just keep moving that pawn? And then the minute I go here, they have this idea, so that when I take, they can take with check, trade the rooks off, and that guy is home free. Maybe I got to do the same with my pawn and just keep pushing it to distract the king here. So what if they exchange, or even, let's assume they're going to push. Uh, hmm, tough. Now if I come over here, they come here, then I can push. Probably my best try. But if I'm able to trade off those pawns, it's really my only shot, I think. Okay. Surprised by that. I thought b4 was more problematic, but I understand. I mean, opponent doesn't have a lot of time. So now, here, here, I suppose they're going to come here though. And then if I go here, they're going to harass my rook. So my rook won't be able to stay behind. Okay. That to me, so if I go here, is the idea to go here and they're going to win this pawn? I think I have to bring my king over, right? So king over, h3, rook here, h2, king here. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Don't think I can allow. Once I do that, then this guy is lost. My only chance is to move with the king. So question is, do I sack that first? Well, let's see. If I can trade one pawn for another and get my king over there, I'll have drawing. Oh, it will be a draw. But the problem is I'm not going to be able to get my king to the last rank as long as... Okay, well now... I thought it was best to leave the rook there, because now if I can get in front of the pawns, it's the ideal square for the rook. Okay, if I go here, they're going to go what, here? Maybe this is the only try. Trying to prevent the king from coming in here. Got some chances here. Oh no, my opponent blundered. Oh no. Opponent blundered. Oh, what a pity. I was going to offer them a draw too, but oh, that's a pity. Yeah, I think this is a dead draw. Okay, but at this point, yeah, black still is winning here. F4 was a mistake, was it? Should have played rook g3, king d2, king e4. Ah, that would have been the way forward. Because now what do? If my king leaves this pawn, he takes. And black is just threatening to come here and scoop up that pawn. So yeah, it looks like f4 was a mistake. But even then, still not so easy. It wants to go rook b7. Interesting. I was so concerned about this. But maybe this is impractical. Best try. All right. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, folks. So thank you for tuning in. Next stream is planned for Tuesday at 5 Eastern for Title Tuesday. Hope to see you there. Also check out the YouTube and Discord channels while I'm offline. And until next time, have yourselves a good day.